Part 28. Fighting and Voldemort meets his end. Meanwhile, everyone was in the Great Hall fighting hard against the Death Eaters. Everyone was scattered. Paige was fighting just as hard by herself, using everything she could with what she learned from her father throughout her life. She didn't know where Ron and Hermione were, but only hoped they got away to find and kill the snake. Paige didn't realize that a Death Eater was trying to kill her from behind, as she had just finished from killing another one. She felt the blast from behind her as she gasped and turned around to see that Molly Weasley just saved her life. "Thank you," she shouted towards her in relief. "Be more careful, my dear, and be on guard," Molly responds to Paige. Molly smiled at Paige as Paige gasped again, seeing that Bellatrix had just missed from completely killing Ginny. In instant reaction, Paige shouted Ginny's name. "Ginny!" Molly immediately turned around as she got up towards Bellatrix. She shouted in anger and full protection of her only daughter. "Not my daughter, you bitch!" Paige kept herself on guard as she watched Molly take on Bellatrix by constantly firing spells at Bellatrix, catching Bellatrix by surprise. Molly Weasley uses a spell at Bellatrix, and Bellatrix froze up, taking a gasp. Paige's eyes grew wide as she watched Molly fire one final spell, sending Bellatrix to explode into a million pieces in the air. In pure happiness, Molly smiled as Paige raised a fist in the air and shouted, "Yes! Thank you, Mrs. Weasley! Terrific job in finally killing that bitch!" Paige watched as Molly smiled, feeling happy and satisfied while Paige chuckled at herself. Paige didn't feel an ounce of hurt or regret for Bellatrix's death, as she was really just a crazy bitch. Meanwhile, as that was occurring with Paige, Molly Weasley, and Ginny, Harry was still at it with Voldemort on his tail. Harry gets on his feet as Voldemort fires a spell at Harry, but Harry continues to rise up like a phoenix. Voldemort raises his wand at Harry towards his forehead, stepping forward only a few feet away from Harry. Harry glances back for a spare moment, having blurry vision, and turns back to look at Voldemort. Harry says to Voldemort, "You were right." Harry drifted his eyes down to the wand Voldemort was holding, as Voldemort was merely curious. Harry continues by saying, "When you told Professor Snape it was failing you, it will always fail you." "It belongs to me," Voldemort exclaimed. "I killed Snape." Harry decided to taunt Voldemort a little. But what if the wand never belonged to him? What if the wand's allegiance was to someone else? Voldemort doesn't respond, but instead confusedly stares at Harry. Harry realizes that, in this moment, he's the one in control as he smiles. Harry gets closer to Voldemort as he quietly taunts, "Come on, Tom. Let's end this the way we started it." Harry grabs Voldemort's cloak tightly with both hands. Together. Harry falls back as it pulls both of them back and travels in a void throughout the outside of the castle. Harry and Voldemort are twisting like crazy while traveling at a quick speed, morphing in and out of each other. Screams can be heard for within one or both of them as both continue to travel until both Voldemort and Harry fall down onto the courtyard. Harry and Voldemort try to fight again, but it's no use as both look at the sky and a streak hits the ground. This causes Voldemort and Harry to burst apart and roll onto the ground. They rise to their feet as they face each other and have a stare down. Harry mutters, "I told you. It's useless to you." While this is happening to them too, Ron and Hermione are in trouble with Nagini on the marble staircase. Flash! Ron and Hermione try to run from Nagini, but she's close as she rises, almost ready to strike. Flash! Harry is ready with the wand in his hand, but fears it's already too late. Flash! Ron reaches out to quickly grab Hermione's hand. Flash! Voldemort grabs onto the Elder Wand. Flash! Nagini starts to lunge down with her head towards Ron and Hermione. Flash! Harry watches in horror before him as, Flash! Suddenly, out of nowhere, like the hero he is, Neville quickly steps in with the sword in his hand and swings to sever Nagini's head as her body and head vanish. Flash! Voldemort freezes and tenses up as he balls down in pain. Seeing this from afar, Paige runs out of the Great Hall and hides by the entrance to look onto the courtyard. Paige watches from afar as she watches Voldemort quickly stand up and fire at Harry. In an instant, Harry lifts his wand and fires back, both spells countering once again. Paige can tell that Harry knows he's weak. Her eyes widen as she realizes that Nagini the snake must have been killed. Paige's eyes widen as she watches to see Harry's spell getting stronger and Voldemort's weaker. Flash! A close-up of the Elder Wand as the crack is expanding and breaking within Voldemort's grasp. Harry softly grins as he watches the Elder Wand fly out of Voldemort's hand and catches it in his grasp. Paige grins as she practically leaps for joy and mutters softly, "Harry, you did it. You beat him." Harry watches as Voldemort momentarily stands up, standing still as Voldemort's eyes are on Harry. Harry and Paige watch as Voldemort drops and disintegrates into the air, his ashes flowing in the air. Voldemort was dead. Voldemort is finally gone from the wizarding world. Justice is served. Paige's point of view. I watched as Voldemort turn into ashes and disintegrated into the air above. Words cannot begin to describe how I feel at this moment. I feel like a huge ass, excuse my language, weight has been lifted from my shoulders. Everyone who I've met and come to care about or love, their justice has been served. People started to flash in my mind of who died under his hands or because of him. My birth mother, Cedric Diggory, Sirius Black, my father, Albus Dumbledore, Harry's owl Hedwig, and my owl Daisy for protecting us, Alistair Moody, Dobby, Fred Weasley, Remus Lupin, Nymphadora Tonks, and my first love and savior, Severus Snape. All of them died for a reason, and some didn't have to, as they died for sacrifice. Watching Voldemort's ashes into the sky was a sign of winning and relief. The hard times are over. Everything we faced and gone through in the last few years has paid off. I watched as Harry stared out into the distance as Voldemort's ashes were in the atmosphere. A light breeze whipped around outside as I sucked in a breath and smiled softly. Harry turned around and spotted me, still in partial hiding. As he smiled and I smiled too. I ran towards him as he walked towards me, meeting the middle of the courtyard. I jumped into his arms as he caught me while I said, "You did it, Harry, you did it. You beat Voldemort." I felt him lightly chuckle as I wrapped my arms around his neck and he held me tightly. He put me down onto my feet, but still held me as I looked at him. "No offense, but you look horrible." I giggled as he said while laughing, "Well, so do you, Paige." "You have no idea how happy I am to see you alive, Harry. I love you, I really do." "I love you, Paige," he responded as he leaned in and softly kissed me. We let go as I let go of my grasp, but he grabbed my hand. I teared up as we looked at each other. "How did you do it, Harry? How did you come back alive? Remember the golden snitch I caught first year, left by your dad in his will?" "Yeah." "Well, during an expedition, I found out that it said a message, and me or Hermione couldn't figure it out. But once I kissed it and muttered, 'I'm ready to die,' it opened and the stone was there. But I'm still alive because Voldemort only destroyed the weaker part." "So, wait. Because a part of him was inside you, he destroyed himself." "Correct, Paige." My eyes got wide. "Well, I'll be damned, Harry. Dad didn't get rid of it after all. Dad knew it. I can't believe this. I'm glad you're alive. I thought I was going to lose you. I teared up again as Harry put a hand on the side of my face. You won't lose me, Paige. I promise. You'll be with me, Harry? Always, Paige. Now that Voldemort's gone, we can do whatever we want and not be afraid. Hearing the word always, I couldn't help but choke out an emotional smile, and Harry knew exactly why.